Numbers chapter 17. And if you don't, if you'll just look up on the screens, we'll just let you read it with us aloud. Verses 7 and 8. Let's look at that together today. Numbers chapter 17, verse 7. And Moses laid up the rods, somebody say rods, before the Lord in the tabernacle of witnesses. And verse 8 tells us what happens next. And it came to pass that on the morrow Moses went into the tabernacle of witnesses, and behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi was budded. Somebody say it budded. And it brought forth buds and bloomed. Somebody say it bloomed. And it yielded almonds, or in other words, it was fruitful. Why? Because it was an almond branch. Somebody say almond branch. Okay, you can close your Bibles and put them underneath your seats or wherever you put them. Does anybody know anything at all about an almond branch? I'm glad I saw like two hands because I did not know, because I do not grow almond trees. But I learned that an almond tree particularly has growth seasons. Somebody say seasons. Does this sound familiar at all? Because we've been contrasting seasons and what harvest is with inheritance and all that. And that's just almost an inside joke. If you don't get it, you'll just have to get the DVDs. We've been talking about this. That an almond tree has seasons. Somebody say seasons. Why is that important? An almond tree has budding seasons, it has blossoming seasons, and it has a fruitful season. It has seasons. And the Bible tells us in this story, if we were to read the whole thing, that the children of Israel were in a place and they were complaining about their leadership of Aaron. And God's remedy for this was He said, okay, let's take all of the people you would like to see lead, and let's get a dead stick, a dead almond branch, make sure there's no bark on it, make sure that it's cut off, that it's dead. And He said, let's all place it in the tabernacle. Somebody say the church. He was saying, come put it in my presence. And when they came back the next day, not all the branches, but just one branch, it said it budded and it blossomed and it grew. It was fruitful. It had almonds on it. And this was something that was previously dead. It amazes me how that when God picks you, He will cause you to prosper even in dead situations. Could I just take just a second and just thank God for all the times that things were dead in my life, yet when I got in the house, somebody say in the house. It's amazing when you get in the presence of God and give your all to Him and watch what He will do. He will take your life and cause you to be promoted in times of recession. Even in inflating gas prices, He somehow will help you get to church and leave. I promise you. If you will simply put your dead things in the house, God has a way of moving in it and causing things to grow. But the issue is not everybody's staff grew. Why? Because God will only prosper the things that He chooses. This was God's way of saying, listen, you can argue and talk about it all you want, but this is the person I desire to lead you. And He represented the 12 tribes of Israel. Somebody say 12. Because there were 12 tribes of Israel, and He represented each tribe with a different branch. In other words, He used the branch that had budding seasons, it had blossoming seasons, and it had fruitful seasons. He was talking about us. If we just update the Revelate and put it in our terms today, God was saying, I'm describing you by something that is dead that goes through seasons. And I want to talk about these 3 seasons in our life today, and I'll do my very best. We've got 30 minutes, and we can go eat. Can I have 30 minutes of your time? You're not going anywhere anyway, because I know today of all days, you're staying for the whole thing, because we got some stuff for you afterwards. The first season is called what? The budding season. Somebody say budding season. I want to, and this would be just the perfect time just to throw in my title today. I can't help it, and sometimes I get my sermons watching TV, and this one reflects it. This bud is for you. All right. Threw that one in for free. We're talking about budding seasons, right? Somebody say this bud is for you. We've got a bud here at the top of this particular flower, and it is not real. Yes, I know that. You don't have to tell me or write me a letter. I can see that. This is a bud to the flower. This is the most tender part. This is the most critical stage in the plant's life because it's the beginning stages. Somebody say the beginning. In the course of your life, you will begin all kinds of things. And I find most people are not successful because they want to go straight from the budding and skip the blossoming and just start being fruitful. And it would be wonderful if it worked out like that, but it doesn't always work out like that. We have to pay close attention in these stages of our life, in the beginning stages. Why is it important? Because in this stage, somebody say the ground. The ground that the bud is in is important. The food that the bud gets is important. And the overall environment or the sunlight determines its rate of growth. So let's just make that real today. How does that apply? We have to be very careful where we are planted in the beginning stages of our life. We have to be very careful where we get planted when we get saved in the beginning stages of Christianity. We have to be very careful when we're trying to start the business or start the family or start the relationship. We have to be very, very careful what we allow ourselves to be planted in, because where you are planted will determine how far you go. And I knew I wasn't going to get any help in here today, but it's all right anyway, because this is a tough subject, because not everyone wants to realize and identify that where I am may not be the greatest place for me. That sometimes you have to get up off your blessed assurance and start standing on the promises instead of sitting on the premises and get yourself planted in the house. Because it is possible to attend a church and not be planted in the ground that it's in. Did you know that? Just want to throw that out for free. It is possible to come and want to reap the benefits and sit and watch, and it's great to be a spectator, but I believe God's looking for some participators. If I've got any, can you just wave at me and let me know we're on the same page? That you realize that God has not called you to sit in here until you have to get put on a respirator, and then you spend the rest of your life on the respirator just waiting for God's move, spending all your time talking about that one and waiting on this one. The God that I serve is active, He's living, and I've got to be able to keep up with His pace, and that tells me I've got to be able to be planted. I've got to be able to be firm and steadfast and stable, because I'm growing, and where I am is not where I intend to be, but I intend to grow, develop, and mature. I'm talking about in your marriage. You need to be planted in the place that you can take criticism sometimes, that you can take complaint. Sometimes you've got to be at the place in your love life with God where you have to understand the preacher's not going to always tell you what you want to hear, but if you are in the right ground and you're planted, it will determine your growth, because you can't grow. I'm trying to be nice when I say it. I really am, but I just get excited. We've got a whole lot of people that are spiritual potted plants, because they just get up and they want to move wherever the sun shines. Well, the sun's over here, so I'm just going to take myself and just go over here. And the problem is, you wonder why in your life you're still the bud. It's because you've never got planted. And why is where you are planted important? Because a plant has to have food. Somebody say food. I'm just going, this is a trick question. You all know you get the best food in Southwest Virginia, because who gives it to you? Man, I can't even get a compliment in here today. I'm going to have to write my own from now on. It is important what you get fed. That's why the Apostle Paul said you have to be weary of false doctrines and false prophets. And what he was saying in those times is just as important in this time. You have to be careful what you're digesting and putting in your system. That's right. Because what you put in eventually will come out. It's nature, all right? And you have to understand you've got to have the right things put into your life. If you are sitting in a place where everyone all the time is saying you're okay and you're all right and you're doing the right things, you are only going to stay in the budding stages. You will never grow and never develop, because I don't need to know what I'm doing right. I need somebody to help me out and tell me what I'm doing wrong. So I got married. All right. Man, this is a tough crowd today. It really is. You've got to have people around you to help feed you the information to make yourself better. And if you're looking for the church to tell you that you're all right and you're okay, you know this is probably not the one for you. But this is the church that sees potential inside of you and will forever do everything we possibly can to get you to a place where you live life better than when you came in these doors. Because I believe this is the beginning stages, and it's great to have beginnings and new beginnings, and it's great to have new starts. But at some point in my life, I want to stop starting over and start producing something and start growing and start building. I'm tired of living a life where I have to keep coming getting forgiven over the same things over and over and over again. And I go just a little ways and I keep falling over the same thing over and over again. I want to get beyond that and get beyond the new fresh stages and start building something that lasts. I want to build something that my kids can enjoy. I want to have something. I want to have the type of monetary wealth that my kids can. I'm tired of just trying to start something new here and getting a new job there. I'm looking for something that lasts. Is there anybody else that could fill me in the place today? And understand the budding stage is great, but there is more. Somebody say there's more. There is so much more. The Bible tells us a story, and particularly it tells us in the book of Mark chapter 25, and we won't even turn there for the sake of time today, about a man, and his name was Jairus, and it said that his daughter was very, very sick. And that he sent word to Jesus and said, Jesus, will you please just come and pray for my daughter and just heal my daughter? And Jesus was on his way there, and it said he got interrupted with a woman with an issue of blood, and she pressed at the crowd and touched the hem of his garment, and what happened?